You are now tuned into Flippin the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 145 of Flippin the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron, alongside Zach Chaval. I almost had it. Zach Chavalella, Morgan Burkett, and the legend himself, Mr. On the Road to Victory himself, Jimmy Smith. What's going on, gentlemen?
What up?
How we feeling? Damn, Zach, I had it. It was right there. I just thought about it too much.
You had it, but you got in your own head. That's what it was. That's what happens every week. You get it. Eric's not even here to blame this time.
But technically, because I look, you're using your icon name, right? And I'm in my head here, Chavo Guerrero. So technically, Eric is to blame. We just won't tell him until he watches the show. But yeah, shout out to you, Eric.
Chavo.
Eric always whispers in my ears, Chavo Guerrero. Oh yeah, Chavo.
Yeah.
Chavo. Damn it!
It's not exactly helpful, but it's definitely not the worst that I've gotten either. So
no doubt.
Oh God, what's up, Drew? How you doing, man? But I mean, I'm excited. Like we've been debating about this for the past couple of weeks, but the Eagles made a hell of a move. Fourth round pick for probably one of the top pass rushers over the past couple of years. Robert Quinn was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles from the Chicago Bears for a fourth-round pick. How are we feeling about that? I mean, pass rush is looking kind of alive right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest part that really stuck out to me is, I mean, the fourth-round pick is what it is. I think that there's value there, but the fact you make the Bears eat most of that contract is what's crazy, right? Is you're paying him what, $700K for this year? Like that's ridiculous, man. And then I don't know, just the flexibility. Like that was the one thing I think we were talking about last week is we were all for trades, but you don't want to lock yourself up long term with a contract. You know, you got all these guys you got to pay in the future, and you don't want to give away a lot of draft capital because you know, it's an older team in a lot of positions, and you want to be able to restock. So you add this guy for no money, really. I don't know. Again, I think I saw E-Rock. He even made a video. He's like, why do you pick up the phone when Howie Roseman calls? Like, you gotta stop doing that because it's like it's legitimate, man. Like he's just fleecing guys. Like I don't even know how you're like, I'm gonna give you a fourth for Robert Quinn, and they go okay, and you're like, and you're gonna pay his salary, and they go okay, and then I don't know how it works. I don't know how he works as Magic Man, but it's a steal. It's a steal, absolutely.
Yeah, I heard. Jimmy, why don't you go ahead for it?
No, I loved it.
Jimmy's ready. Jimmy's ready to let loose.
I just love what he was saying there. But go ahead, Zach. I don't want to interrupt you, man. I'm the guest here.
No, it's you know, I heard. I think it was Elliot Shore Parks. You know, because of course it was. But stating that it wasn't a steal of a deal. You know, that it wasn't a bad move, but that it wasn't a steal of a deal. And, you know, he went into his reasoning for it, you know, Quinn's lack of production this year. I think he only has one sack this year so far. But there is no way to think of this as any way other than a steal. Yes, he only had one sack this season. However, if you look at the Chicago Bears and you look at the situation there, not just on the field, which is atrocious, but you look behind the scenes, right? So Roquan Smith, linebacker for the Chicago Bears, a lot of people saw in tears after Robert Quinn was traded. Before the start of the season, he was doing everything he could to get out of Chicago also. So that whole, you know, defensive locker room is not a good situation because you have any player who wants to win, it seems, is trying to be on their way out. Right. You know, Eddie Jackson is probably another guy in that list as well. So you can't tell me that what we saw from Robert Quinn this season was what he actually is at this level. Just last year, he had 18 and a half sacks. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be back on that pace the rest of this year. Obviously, he's going to be part of a rotation too. But he's going to look a lot closer to that than he has his first half in Chicago. So, Morgan, I'm in full agreement. I don't think that there's anyone who says otherwise is either looking for a hot take or trying to be, you know, all Negadelphia. But listen, this is a steal of a deal. Not only did you get him for a 4th-round pick, like you said, Morgan, they ate most of the money too. At some point, teams are probably going to learn not to pick up until, when Howie calls. But
Yeah.
up until then, until then, we're just going to reap the rewards. And I love it.
Yeah, great points by both of you gentlemen. I think steal of a deal. And it was great what you just said there. Like someone just looking for, a hot take. Oh, what better than Mr. Hot Take Artist himself? And, I not to slander anyone. And, it's great to see people making videos now, not talking trash on Howie and rather praising him and talking about don't pick that phone up, because this all season, Morgan, let me tell you something. You talk about the complexity of the cap. That is one of my things. And that is, my little niche that people, it's like, all right, I'm going to come to you. I literally sat here and I was like, what am I in high school again doing math homework this damn all season, figuring out, okay, Howie is a magician. He is going to move money around. He's going to open this, that, the other thing, blah, blah, blah. We saw all of those things happen. We saw the restructures, the signings. Oh my God. Well, the one thing I've tried to point out the last couple of weeks, because we all know when the trade deadline gets nearer, it's almost turning into the NBA now. It's like, we get excited. Things actually happen now. Love to see it. But I started getting prepared because it's like, look, we still have $9.5 million. And the way things work with a lot of these players on their contracts is most of their guaranteed money is going to get paid for by the other team. And you're taking on a very small fraction. And what we need to care about as fans is the cap hit. That's what we're looking at. How much is it actually costing? And as Morgan mentioned, 711 and I believe 111,000 is the number there. And that's crazy, dude, because that is what the minimum guys are making, 750. So it's a very minuscule cap hit, but okay, I get, you're giving up a 4th-round pick. You don't want to do that. Look, dude, we have loaded up. We are not the 76ers. We're not trying to have the most effing draft picks in history in 1 year. It's like, okay, you got to eventually make them players. So you look at this team, 6-0, undefeated, looking to just steamroll people. And look, there have been ups and downs, but that's something to be expected from this team. What was not expected from others was them to be undefeated. Well, you have to realize, those people that are still complaining, it's like, dude, to be able to go through those mistakes and be able to learn from them while winning, that is a great thing. That builds a contender. But we noticed there were some holes that weren't going to be fixed by magic. So Derek Barnett playing that defensive end 3. I mean, a guy you bring back for some people thought a little too much, especially for a guy that's 3rd as your edge rushers. So you've got Josh Sweat, got Brandon Graham. Boom, he's out on IR. Janarius Robinson, okay, let's see if boom, he's on IR. So Teron Jackson, here's your shot. Okay, doesn't step it up. So now you have to. Now, the name was Brian Burns. Everybody, oh my God. And Liam, I would love to have him. Okay. I would love to have Patrick Mahomes too, though. No, not right now. We have Jalen Hurts, but my point is, as much as it's exciting to get into these things, you also have to temper your expectations at some point and be like, okay, we already are spending this much money. Brian Burns is a different situation. He wants to be somewhere. You're going to have to give him long-term. I would have loved to have done that, but you're giving up part of what we're building here. And that's a very bright future. So what we did instead was add to the rotation. You don't just, this guy isn't coming here like, whatever ESP or anybody's thinking like, oh, well, this is a stupid trade. Because look, he's not even starting. To be honest with you, I don't care. It's going to be a pretty even snap share between Sweat, and Graham. You've got a great rotation. Keep them all fresh. You got a couple guys I just mentioned there in the 32 plus category. So they're up there in age, but when they're fresh, they dominate. Zach mentioned 18.5 sacks last year. Oh, yeah. Dude, the guy's got some left in the tank, I can assure you. And, I always harken back to the pass rush is so important because that's how we won the Super Bowl. Well, one of those things we did in 2017 was add Chris Long and Michael Bennett. Well, that's a great rotation to have, right? Well, we just added another guy who, he's too old. He can't still do it. Don't care. I think the dude's still got enough that he's going to wreak havoc, and I think it's going to allow this multiple scheme defense where some of these different packages, you have guys that, he's strictly going to be a defensive end, outside linebacker at times, not a Sam linebacker. He's not going to drop into coverage, but maybe you see some more of this NASCAR package where you get Brandon Graham in the middle, you get Robert Quinn, you get guys just pass rush attack, man. And it's weird. We have got pressure this year. We're just not getting sacks. And I know if you look at the stats, we're middle of the pack. One of those games was 9 sacks against Carson Wentz. So take that all with a grain of salt. I think that this pass rush, though, we just got much better. And I think steal of a deal. I agree with these two gentlemen. And as Brian mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah, so to kind of piggyback a little backwards, Zach mentioned, what was the reason for, what Elliot said that, there's not much production. There's not much production because I'm reading right now. I mean, his double team rate went from 19% last season to
Yeah.
50% this season.
Yeah.
Dude, you just
Which is
joined the defensive line
higher.
with Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Jordan Davis, Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick. Like,
He's had 58 double teams this year, man.
Yeah.
Tell me
Yeah, like-
who's double teaming who on this defense.
Yeah.
you got to pick your
Yeah.
poison and still get poisoned. Like that's a crazy thing. Like it's such a great place to be in for Philly because one, they pride themselves on the defensive line. Two, we needed the pass rush more than ever. I mean, yes, we're gonna down the stretch we're facing a majority of inexperienced quarterbacks, but you need it on a Super Bowl. You're gonna need that against a Josh Allen. You're gonna need that against a Pat Mahomes. You're going to need that in the playoffs, especially if you're facing. I hate to say this, like a Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, or even Tom Brady. Like you need your defense to get to the quarterback because that's what won the Super Bowl. It's a strip sack. That's what everybody remembers. Nobody remembers Zach Ertz's final touchdown. Everybody remembers Brandon Graham strip sacking Tom Brady to clinch it. So it was a hell of a move. It was a great move from Howie. How they keep he has to have the wildest dirt on every single GM in the league.
He must.
Either that, and I hate to say this, he may have slept with a lot of people's wives. That has to be it. Like there's no other way to put this right now. Like you don't give this guy whatever he wants just for the hell of it. Like there has to be something there. Either that or he's just, I mean, he's brilliant at this rate.
He's
He
an
had
OG,
a couple
man.
down years, but he's at the point where it's like you can't deny his his intelligence.
Yeah,
I agree, man. I thought that going into this year, I'd mentioned, how I broke down all the numbers, all the things. And it's like, it's not me that does this. It's Howie Roseman. But having an understanding of what he does and understanding that he is a great GM with the capital, with the moving the picks and stuff. The issue was just mentioned. Brian said it a couple years, Harry. Missed Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf. Of course, everybody wants to hold that against him. Look, we've got AJ Brown and Devontae Smith right now. I'm trying not to live in the past. And he made those mistakes, but the past 2 years, Devontae Smith, Milton Williams, Landon Dickerson last year. Look at the haul this year. Jordan Davis, Jacoby. I mean, very excited for the future of this team and excited that it seems like he learned from his mistakes. And people forget that before those crappy years where he missed those guys, we won our first Super Bowl. So he really has a bright mind. And I thought breaking down this year, okay, this is it. And I put all my chips on the table. I was like, man, if I go in on this dude and he just fails me, I'm going to go punch him in the face myself. And, I broke down this, Austin, why you got to get a Sam linebacker, why you got to draft a nose tackle. And the specific people he added were the people the Eagles needed. Jonathan Gannon specifically on defense needed. And it's like, wow, he actually listened to coaches. It showed me that this guy, he's in tune right now. And he's learning from his mistakes. I understand you're going to make mistakes. Everyone does. But I want to see how you come back from those. And that man, dude, he is good. Why are you answering the phone? Why?
That has to be every owner in the league, like telling their GMs. Really quick answer, Doug.
I heard that he tried to sneak Eddie Jackson into the deal too. I don't know.
I heard that too. And that's
Bro, I would have
wild.
loved that.
Ballsy. You don't just walk around saying like, I'm going to take
like
your wife and your ex at the same time. Like that you don't say that to people. Like you don't do that. Like, he literally
it's
just walked
like
in the
that
room and
Chappelle
just owned
sketch
it.
when they do the racial draft, right? And they try to sneak in the
Oh
trade at
my
the last
God.
second.
Chappelle.
That's exactly how I picture it happening. But yeah, Eddie Jackson would have been great. I'm more than happy with what it is right now. And Jay Fizzle actually mentioned earlier talking about how they may have taken less. And I want to look more at the concept of what Jay Fizzle said. How they possibly would have taken less if they didn't have to eat the money. Well, I love that Howie made them eat the money, gave them a little bit more now. Because yes, even if they didn't eat the money, he probably could have found another way to kind of circumnavigate the cap, still have a little bit left to play with as the trade deadline approaches. But now, because you had them eat it this year, and you don't have to worry about that this year, you also don't have to worry about renegotiating salaries this year, which would affect your cap in the future. So it gives you more future optionality with your salary cap while still leaving the present open for any additional moves that he may be making, which I think is still a possibility that he makes. We know he's always on the phone. He's never not on the phone. But I think there is still no chance that there's another move going on in Philadelphia.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what the next move could possibly be. And Zach, where my heart is in this. I'm looking for a running back. I want a big back. I want a big body back that can move between the tackles and make things happen. And it's
probably would have happened if it was
reason.
David Montgomery. It probably would have happened with Chicago. So he's probably off the list now. I hate to tell you.
Which it hurts me because I feel like, yes, you're right. But at the same time, like, I mean, he's double dipped on the Saints this year. Like, you could double dip on Chicago. Like, why not, right?
Fair.
If you're in your
Fair.
bag, you're in your bag.
Exactly.
But you know, there's
we're talking about fire sale, so
yeah,
Yeah.
I love David Montgomery just because he is a big back, and I think behind his offensive line, he will be a perfect complement to Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
I know the main guy out there for everybody, which to me seems like a long shot, I'm not a fan of, is Alvin Kamara. And then obviously Kareem Hunt. But there's got to be a diamond in the rough that nobody's talking
Cam
about.
Akers, man. Cam Akers.
Oh, yes,
Pick
give me
the phone,
that.
call the Rams.
Absolutely.
Cam Akers is definitely a guy to look at. I really want to know what the price on Cam Akers is. I can't imagine it's very much.
He doesn't want
They
to be
tried
there.
including him in the
They're
Christian
talking about
McCaffrey
trading
deal.
or releasing him, so I can't imagine it's that much at all. So it's
Oh,
definitely
wow.
something
I didn't see the
that wanna
releasing
look
stuff.
into. So, I mean, that's just likely the alternative because
Yeah,
he's
if
not,
they don't
he's not
trade
even
him, yep.
practicing. So
If they don't get
depending on
him
what the price
shipped
is,
by the
I'm
deadline,
all
I
in.
would agree with Zach.
It's the same
But
thing
it'll
with
be
David
low.
Montgomery. Like you're losing him after this season.
Yeah,
Why not
it's
get?
a little bit
You
different
have
with
Khalil
Montgomery,
Herbert.
because you still have a little bit of production. It helps Fields develop having a back in there like Montgomery. It could even potentially help Herbert in the locker room, depending on how Montgomery is as a presence. Like there are theoretically, and I would imagine they'd get some kind of comp pick from Montgomery, would they not? Just by letting him walk. So there's reasons in that, but even Montgomery, I wonder about his price. He might be someone who's a little bit higher. You mean be looking at potentially like another maybe like a 5th round pick for David Montgomery at this point?
I heard that's what Jimmy Kempsky put out in his article that David
That
Montgomery
might be
will
a
probably
little
worth
higher than
5th.
how he's willing to go it back. I mean, like you might even be looking at something way, 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 way out there. Let's look back at the Saints. Another deal with the Saints, not Alvin Kamara.
Okay.
Talking about something like Mark Ingram for just pick swap. Right now, we've seen something like that, like when Deshaun Jackson, with the Deshaun Jackson trade a few years ago. I mean, you could be talking about a guy like Mark Ingram coming to Philadelphia, and you're just essentially swapping late round draft picks at that point. You're not even necessarily giving up a pick straight up. And I'm not saying Mark Ingram, specifically is the guy. We haven't seen that anywhere. That's pure just speculation. But I'm thinking that kind of like bargain bin deal. I don't want to rule that out. Is all I'm getting at with Howie Roseman, because we only gave up a 4th for Robert Quinn, but we did give up a 4th round pick. And while we have some nice picks coming in the future, we have some nice higher end picks. So unless we're going really big, and that's where the kind of Alvin Kamara or other high end, probably a Damian Harris is not quite Kamara's tier, but in that higher end, that's where those conversations happen. But if they're not willing to spend those picks, which I would hold on to the Saints pick for dear life, then you could be looking at more so kind of bargain bin deals.
I think, you guys mentioned a bunch of good running backs there, and that the talk of the town, obviously Kamara, Kareem Hunt. I made a show last week. I threw in David Montgomery because, he's got only a $3 million cap hit. But again, most of these people that are getting traded, the team trading them is going to have to take most of the money. So money is not an issue here for a lot of these guys. It's compensation, as you guys were talking about. And I think for someone like a David Montgomery, a 4th, maybe the highest, but that's still a great back to add to this rotation. Kareem Hunt, maybe he would be asking for the same thing. I'm not against any of these things. I think if we don't make that move, though, I'm okay with Sanders, Gainwell, and I'm intrigued to see how Trey Sermon comes along. I know he struggled in San Fran, but if nothing happens, I don't want to just give up a pick to hope, somebody's going to maybe stay another year, because a lot of these guys are 1 year remaining on their contract. But again, when Howie trades for somebody, it's probably, okay, we're going to sign you, blah, blah, blah. So, again, just throwing that out there. But I think, when you're looking at that, I love what Zach was saying here with the bargain bin kind of thing, some pick swap stuff. Let's look at, some later round kind of guys. What if, Melvin Gordon pissed off in Denver, they're using other guys. Maybe you could convince them to pick swap and get yourself a decent back for little to nothing. And, the same could be said for someone like a Cordero Patterson. They've got Tyler Algier there. And, maybe you bring him in, he helps you in the return game. It just something to throw it in there, because there were only a few positions that I felt the Eagles should focus on during this. And I thought edge rusher being one of them, obviously. And we went and did that. But I thought that safety depth, not really a safety starter. I'm good with that. But we saw with an injury, Kayvon Wallace not exactly the answer. So maybe some depth there. But my idea was maybe get like a Jabril Peppers where, and I've seen that now this past week. And I was like, all right, because he brings you return capability and safety depth. But for me, what that does is it doesn't make me have to worry about all these. Like right there, if I get Jabril Peppers, it's like I got a backup safety, I got a kick returner. Covey can still work on the punt returns, everything. But now I feel like a hole. Now I know that other running back sounds great, but to get Peppers, what did I give up? A 6 and to swap for another 6 or a 7. And, as mentioned by either Zach or Brian there, our picks are pretty high. So I kind of want to keep on to them. So if I'm looking for anybody, it's some of these bargain bin kind of guys for me where I'm not just selling the house. Brian Burns, it was very like, oh, I probably would, but maybe not the smartest move. But I don't think that's on the table anymore. So a Kamara type deal. I love the dude. I do. He's so talented, but talked a lot of shit on the Eagles first off. But, I think that, that's just kind of the same back we got going on here. And, a little bit more tough. But, dude, I'd find out what Trey Sermon is before I give up a 3rd round pick and some change for Alvin Kamara, So not to say that he's going to be anywhere near him. You know what I mean? Just the payoff there for what it is. But I love what you guys said there. And I think there's a lot of options. But for me, we don't even really need a running back. I think at this point, if you just go after Jabril Peppers is really, but if a running back, as you guys have said, if it's going to be someone, give me somebody with some return capability. And one of the names I wanted to bring up was Kareem Hunt is talked about nonstop because of the talent in Cleveland there at running back. But what about the guy behind he and Chubb? And that's Dearness Johnson. Dearness Johnson, not only does he bring you that same type of back, and clearly got a ways to go before he's anywhere near a Kareem Hunt, and who knows if he ever would be, but he brings you return capability as well. Can pass catch. He can actually pass block a little bit. So that's a guy that brings you stuff you actually need on this team, not just adding him because it looks pretty, which, look, we in 2017 had a J.J., and I was like, what the fuck? We got LeGarrette Blount, what? So Howie, go ahead, dude. I'm not going to judge you, but I'm just saying for me, I like what Zach was saying about the bargain bin stuff there.
Yeah. I think
has Dearness Johnson played a offensive snap this year, or has it all just been special teams?
I think mostly special teams for him.
Yeah. So I mean,
and they have Jerome Ford there too.
Yeah. So even if they were to move Hunt somewhere else, you'd have to imagine they'd still listen to deals on Dearness Johnson.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jimmy brings up a good point. Is kind of where you actually need value on this team. Like, I don't really think it makes sense to spend a lot of capital upgrading a position that's essentially been the motor of your offense. Like, we had some questions about Miles Sanders and mainly his patience as a runner, and we've seen that improve vastly over this year. Like he's hitting those holes. He's become a one-cut runner, which is really, when you talk about kind of what this offense needs, even with a bigger back, it doesn't matter how big the dude is if he's not going to take one cut and get downhill, right? And we see Miles Sanders do that. So, to trade away picks for 20 pounds, it doesn't really make sense. But where I do see the value is for, what Jimmy's talking about is kick return. You could add a kick return specialist. Do you need to give away picks for that? I'm not sure. If you can get one for a 7th or something like that, absolutely. But where I really do see the value and what they might need to add someone is a pass blocker. I think that's kind of the area where we've seen Miles Sanders kind of flatline a bit. Is we saw a lot of improvement from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, and then this year it's there's a reason why we see so many backs in the backfield. The Eagles leak out. I remember hearing like Deuce Staley talk about this. If you have a guy who can't pass block, you don't teach him to pass block. You teach him to run routes. Like, that's what you do, right? That's the solution. So that's why a player like Damian Harris makes a lot of sense. I don't know what the asking price for him is. I don't like trading with the Patriots is always kind of a weird situation. You never know what they're going to want for their players. They never know how they value them behind the scenes. So that's a risky business. That might be the one organization where Howie doesn't call. I don't know. But I think that's where it really makes sense. Is I don't think Kenny Gainwell is going to be that kind of guy. Boston Scott's not that kind of guy. Miles Sanders isn't really like he's not taking leaps and bounds, right? He's not going to be a really solid pass blocker. He's okay, and he'll chip. Like, we've seen him chip an end, no problem. But you really do prefer him leaking out. And so having that kind of that pass blocker guy, the type that the Eagles have spent capital on at that third running back in the past, like that's the kind of guy that they love to have as their third running back, is that pass blocking guy that, hey, he'll put his head down and get you yards. So that kind of player makes a lot of sense. But again, I'm not sure. Like, you look at this rushing offense and you look at the way they're passing the ball. They're moving Jalen Hurts out of the pocket pretty quick. They don't really need that stay-at-home guy. So I'm not sure if spending, like, again, I have no idea what Damian Harris would cost. Probably around the same as these other guys, like a 4th or a 5th. If it's a 5th, hey, you absolutely make that call. But I think that's the kind of guy that makes sense. You know, when we talk about Kamara, like, again, he's a guy you're going to send out of the backfield because of not necessarily that he's such a bad pass blocker, but he's so electric as a pass catcher. And obviously he's not going to be as good of a pass blocker because he doesn't do as much of it. But that not only kind of handcuffs you for the draft next year, but then, you know, you got to worry about, you know, he's not going to want to get paid, right? Like you're not going to get the Saints to fucking take all that contract. They're not going to do that, man. They know the value, right? So that's the one thing they're not going to do.
They're not picking up. They're not picking up Morgan.
No, they're not. They're not taking on that contract. So you're going to have to give them picks and you're going to have to pay them. And you have so many guys. I can't remember. I think Brian brought it up last week. You got like 18 guys that you got to pay over the next year. So you just can't lock yourself in like that.
You think the Saints will pick up the phone?
No. Nope.
Absolutely not. I don't think they.
Bro,
you don't
how
know. I wouldn't.
He's got something on them, dude. Holy. Yeah. I can't believe, like, I can't believe this is reality, bro. Like, we're really like contending right now. We're looking like we're building something to be not only a contender for this year, but I got a lot of slack when I said that we were building a contender because of the pieces we're putting in, but a dynasty. And look, I don't think, we could be the Patriots, run, 6th in the next 10 years. I'm just saying in the sense where I think we compete for the next 5-10 years because
it's gonna be
of how Howie is putting. And Zach mentioned it earlier. Like, these are very valuable, these picks. I know it's so fun. Like, you're playing Madden or, you're in a mock draft. You're like, fuck these picks. And you're just going to trade everything. But it's like, this is going to help our future. Next year you go get a stud edge rusher. You get a corner. You get all these things that are going to be necessary because unfortunately age does happen. And adding these great veterans, it's cool, that you've got Bradbury and Slay helping McPherson. You've got Cox and Hargrave helping Davis. You've got White helping Dean. It's just an Edwards. There's so much of that everywhere on this team. And it's like they're versatile players. So you see that there's a running theme here. And it's like these guys are going to help them in their career. So it's like, dude, we're being built for success for the long haul. And I'll agree with whatever Howie does.
That's one thing I wanted to mention about Robert Quinn, man. Like we talked about it last week too, is the balance between these young like studs coming up and then the veteran leadership. You can add a Brian Burns, but does he have the same locker room presence that Robert Quinn has? I don't think so. And you talk about taking on double teams, man. That shows more than just he's willing to take on double teams. That shows selfishness or selflessness, right? Yep. That's a team dude. He takes on more double teams than the Bosa brothers, right? Like that's a crazy stat. Like he's not complaining. He's not the guy that's gonna go in front of the media and talk shit. Like this is a locker room guy. That's a great addition, regardless of what he does on the field, to that locker room. Like we talked about Chris Long, it's a similar guy. Like Philly loved Chris Long. We'll love him always because of what he did in the locker room. Like he didn't make that play in the Super Bowl. He made plays, don't get me wrong, but we love him for who he was in the locker room. So adding a guy like that, man, it just pays dividends. Absolutely.
Nobody's crying for Brian Burns, as Zach mentioned. Roquan was crying.
That's key.
That's big.
Well, back on the Roquan point too, like I said, he was making a stink earlier, in the offseason about wanting to leave Chicago. It's another competitive player like Robert Quinn. Obviously, Quinn did not want to be there because everyone can tell the direction the Chicago Bears are headed. So you look at two completely different reactions. I'm not trying to shit on Roquan Smith, and he's a hell of a player. But when you look at that leadership shown by Robert Quinn, by putting his head down, going into work every week, facing more double teams than the Bosa brothers, more than Micah Parsons throughout the entire season, and he hasn't said anything. For him to now be in Philadelphia, I mean, you're talking about a great leader who is now in a great situation, a winning situation with other great leaders like Brandon Graham. I mean, that just magnifies everything. So it's Morgan, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that might be the most important part of this Robert Quinn trade is this extra leadership, a lot similar to when we added Chris Long, though I expect even more production out of Robert Quinn than we got out of Chris Long, who was phenomenal for the Eagles.
Facts. I completely agree with that. I expect a lot of production out of Robert Quinn.
I think he's Chris Long and Michael Bennett combined.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
He has that, and he still has a very, very unique bend as well. Like the guy gets the quarterback at
he's
a reckless
fun to
pace.
watch. At 32.
Oh my God, it's gonna be beautiful to see. Yes. Absolutely.
I love it. And now he gets fresh, right? You could play 33% of the snaps where he, Sweat, Graham, they all come out and feast. And then on the other side, you got Hassan Reddick and both the Johnson guys backing him up. So, dude, we don't even have to talk about the interior. Those are just, all 5 of them are monsters that will eat you alive. So this rotation, you stay fresh throughout the game. best of luck to opposing teams.
Exactly. And I know we're wrapping up our time right now with Jimmy. Jimmy, I need one bold prediction for the trade deadline, man. You got to give it to me. Give me the sauce, man.
All right. I think that the Eagles are gonna go get that return man. I think and I don't know why, but I just feel Jabril Peppers. I went through and I literally looked at every single roster, every team, their depth chart, where I felt there were holes. And Jabril Peppers has fallen out of the rotation there in New England. It just seems like to me, it's a match made in heaven. Britton Covey can handle punt returns. I like the fact that he's been kick returning because I don't like Quez Watkins back there. But I really just want people to start blocking. Maybe we would see more from Covey if they'd block. But you get a Jabril Peppers back there, he's your kick returner. Covey's your punt returner. And then I feel much more comfortable because a guy like Jabril Peppers can be very versatile in this defense. So you can actually use this dude. And that would be my bold prediction. I don't think we're trading any higher than the pick we already gave up. I don't think we're getting anyone higher than a 4th rounder. So I would agree. I love what Morgan said about Damian Harris. A great name there. Love what Zach was bringing up about the bargain stuff there. So I think that's where I'm at. So for me, nothing too bold or hot take-ish here, but I think, adding that return game, I know it's not to me too crazy. I think if they just block, it would be much better. But hey, this team, we're looking at the few holes we have and it's like, let's fill them. Zach had mentioned, and Morgan said about how important veteran leadership is. Teron Jackson had his chance to shine here, but dog, this is not teaching time. Right now, we're going to win a Super Bowl. So it's time to add the pieces that matter. And I think adding a guy like him would be, dude, I'd be set. I'd be good. And look, I like the Damian Harris talk, and I do like people like Dearness Johnson or Cordero Patterson can help you in the return game. I love the David Montgomery Bry was bringing up here, dude. I love it. I do. But I'm really happy with where we're at. We're undefeated. So, I'm just really excited that Howie's still going. It's like, oh, yeah, we're still going, baby. So, I'm on cloud 9. So, if it's anything, it's just cherry on top. But I'm not going to be mad if nothing happens.
Sounds good to me. Jimmy, again, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for coming on, man. You're a legend to us at the end of the day. You're always welcome on our show whenever you want to come on. You don't even gotta ask to show up. But yeah, Jimmy Smith. For those out there, even though there are very few out there that don't know where to find you, you mind telling the fans to look up your stuff?
Of course. You're way too kind, my man. I really appreciate you. And I love you guys. And Zach, it was great meeting you. Morgan, Bry, it's been too long. We definitely got to do this more. And my life has been pure chaos. But I just finally had my first guest this year. And I've been trying to work on it. It went well with 4 people here. But I don't know if you guys remember, it sometimes gives me saddlebagging problems when I go on with multiple people. But we're good to go here. So ready to rock and roll. Love you all. Love everyone in the chat. But my name is Jimmy Smith, and you can find me on YouTube at On the Road to Victory with Jimmy Smith. You can find me down here at OTR2 Victory. On Twitter, I have used Facebook sparingly, Instagram, those things. I try to be on every platform, but I try to keep up with daily Eagles news, the injury reports, everything. So if you're looking for just the nitty gritty stuff, the rosters, what you're looking at depth charts, I'm a psycho. I love knowing every single thing about it. So
Jimmy,
I appreciate you guys just giving me the shout out and letting me say that, though. And I appreciate all of you guys out there tuning in or who will check it out. Appreciate you. And of course, go Birds.
Yes, sir.
Take it easy, Jimmy.
Pleasure.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Take care, guys. Let's get that W this week.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Go.
Cool. All right, so that was Jimmy Smith from On the Road to Victory, and now we're gonna preview Philly and Pittsburgh, and it's been a bit of a regular when we talk about the Steelers and Eagles. A good friend of mine, Mr. Troy Briggs. How you doing, Troy?
I'm all right. Can you guys hear me good?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we hear you good.
All right. Yeah, so I'm over here getting my arguments ready. Right now, I'm getting my Steelers, baby. This is where it's at. I'm telling you, this is where it's at Sunday, right here. But
the issue is, you got Kenny Pickett out there.
Don't start
What's
me
going on with that?
Kenny.
What's going on with that?
No, they call him Kenny Pickett for a reason. That's what I'm saying.
Kenny Pickett for a reason.
They call him Kenny Pickett for a reason. When he throws to the defenders, what they do, they pick it.
I listen. You're just peeling scabs right now, okay? The thing about it was, I said this, when we did the draft show, that this year wasn't the year. I should say, this past draft wasn't the year that they had to force their way into quarterback. live and die with Mitch. You know, the crop of quarterbacks coming out this year, in all honesty, I think he would respectfully, sorry, fall somewhere around 4 or 5. Right? These quarterbacks coming this year is what you should have been shooting for. I mean, I get it. The guy's in the building. I'm pretty like I actually have a family member who is a starting offensive lineman for the University of Pitt. So I understand exactly how close that relationship runs between the university and the franchise. Um, they're not necessarily eating lunch together, but they are literally passing each other all day, every day, in and out of the same building. Personal conversations are had. You know, the coaches are going to talk to the coaches because that's what coaches do. They talk about football, right? So they had every reason, especially understanding that no one was going to take a quarterback before them. They had every reason to take the quarterback they felt most comfortable with. I would have been the guy in the room saying, "Can we just let's go ahead and go, 4 and 12 with Mitch, which probably would have not happened because I would have said it that way, right? So that's when they bite you. But yeah, but I'm still going with my Steelers. I'm telling you right now. The only thing is, give me my 10 points. I need my 10 points. Philly's a 10-point favorite. I will take my 10 points.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked about this in our draft show as well. Yeah, I mean, Brian, we talked a lot about Kenny Pickett, and early on, I think we were saying how we were higher than him, and this was back like early on in the process when he was talked about as like a second or third round kind of guy, right? And then as the conversation kind of crept in where he's like a first round guy, we're like, well, you got to pause a bit because I mean, again, Troy talked about it, how close the organization is to the university. This is a great character guy, man. It's hard to hate Kenny Pickett. It doesn't matter. He's a great personality. He's going to be a guy in your locker room that can really, bring winning to your franchise. He just needs some time. And so I think like they threw him in there. The Steelers are, I mean, they're always going to be well run, and they understand how to build a team. Defense first. You add a quarterback. You add a running game. You get strong in the trenches, and then you add that quarterback. And I think Troy's right. They probably could have waited a year, but it's not a bad team. And I think what it is you're seeing Kenny Pickett go through growing pains, and he's really a rhythm guy. So when teams get him off his rhythm, and that's what they're going to do with young quarterbacks, he's not going to look as good. But by no means is this an easy win, and I think this is one of those where without trying to create false headlines or anything like that. This is one of those that you kind of circle early on as the kind of trap game where the Eagles are coming in 6-0, they're coming off their bye. They're better under Sirianni, but historically not good after their bye. And you get a tough team they're going to play you hard, man. It doesn't matter what the score is. It could be 40-0 at halftime. They're still going to play you hard in the second half, right? So, I mean, I agree with Troy, kind of like 10-point underdogs, man. I'll take the 10 points. I mean, the Eagles have kept games close, man. Like they blow you out in the first half, and then they let you creep back in the second. And so it's gonna be a tough game for Kenny Pickett. Don't get me wrong, especially with Robert Quinn if he's out to that pass rush. But this is a tough defense, man. They play hard, and everyone loves playing for Mike Tomlin, so they're gonna play hard for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the Steelers, 2 wins, right? But when you look at those 2 wins, you're talking about a win over Tampa Bay. You're talking about a win over Cincinnati, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a team that knows how to fight against experienced teams. They're not going to go quietly, like you're saying, Morgan. It's that defense that I'm really worried about. I'd never bet against Cam Hayward. I mean, that guy will never give up on a single play from everything I've ever seen. So that defense is definitely something that I'm going to look out for. You look at the linebacker play. I know that Devin Bush has not necessarily been everything Steeler fans may have looked for, but I just love the athleticism, and that's something that potentially as a spy over Jalen Hurts, I think is something to watch over this game. There's going to be a large party in Philadelphia that's just saying that we're going to steamroll them, kind of like the Bills did. No offense, Troy, of course. Kind of like the Bills did. And I kind of agree with the whole, giving the Steelers the 10 points, because it's just when you look at how Philadelphia plays their game and you look at how Pittsburgh, really plays their game and can settle down defensively. I think this is a game where we see more long drives like we've seen, this season for Philadelphia, not just for Philadelphia, but we've seen that for their opponents from time to time. So I think you could be looking at that as well, that kind of more methodical approach, try and help out Kenny Pickett, try and use a little more Najee Harris there. Hopefully, just wear down the Eagles defense, probably going to be part of the game plan for Pittsburgh. But I think it's going to be relatively low scoring. And I think it's not something that you can assume is an automatic win, to kind of bring in a basketball parallel. Obviously, the Philadelphia 76ers have been incredibly disappointing, and they lost to the San Antonio Spurs, who are a tanking team, this past Saturday. What does PJ Tucker say? He enters the locker room and he says that teams are not going to give you wins. That applies here. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to give the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're not giving any team a win. They're not giving the Eagles a win, because that Pennsylvania rivalry, listen, there is something to it, right? It doesn't come up all that often on the field, but they're not going to lie down for any team, but especially not their shared state opponent, their shared state rival. So I think this is going to be one of the more fun games on the Eagles schedule to watch. My mom's a Steelers fan, so there's a little bit of a personal side for me, but I'm absolutely looking forward to this game on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I like your mom, just for the record. Tell her I want to send her flowers.
I'll let her know.
See, so as much as I want to kind of just give it to Troy, like, yeah, Eagles are 6-0. Yeah, Eagles are doing this and third. I'm gonna be level-headed because I agree with everybody, with exactly what everybody's saying right now. My key thing for the season has been, yes, you start off great, but you guys end like shit, and that's been the key thing with the Eagles. They've been able to put away the Cowboys. Yes, that's great. Who do we have? The Cardinals. We put away the Cardinals, but the Cardinals actually made a boneheaded move when Kyler Murray slid right before the first down marker. So you don't get lucky too many times in the football season. My thing right now is, like, you're coming out of a bye. Yes, the energy is gonna be high. We have Robert Quinn. This is great, awesome, but the offense is still the offense, and it's still Shane Steichen back there calling the plays. Like, there's been a lack of creativity that I feel like I've seen. We went from seeing AJ Brown get almost 10 targets a game, and Devontae Smith get almost like 8 or 9 to nothing. Like, to me, it's like they've been going backwards a little bit on offense. Everybody's been ignoring it because they're winning.
Right.
If this team is able to get up, on the Steelers within like 10 points, whatever case may be, and it's they're going into the second half only up by 10, it's gonna be a very close game for the rest of the game. That's the big issue. This team still lacks the killer instinct that big teams have. The Bills have it, the Patriots have it, the Bucks, when they need it, they have it. Like, good teams know how to put away bad teams, whatever case, mediocre teams, whatever you want to look at it. At the end of the day, like, that's still a missing ingredient from this team for me to say, like, this is gonna be a blowout game, especially out of a bye. Like, this is gonna be a competitive game. It's gonna be a very close game. It's gonna be a very agonizing game because we're gonna be watching this game like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing? But I don't know. Like, I'm still not sold on Steichen. They've had a good season so far, but it's a little weird to me seeing AJ Brown not be as consistently used creatively. Creatively used, is that word? Phrase?
Sure.
Creatively.
Right. Just made it creatively used, right?
Yeah,
you got it.
That's still bothering me. I love the fact that they're doing the screens with Dallas Goedert, but hey, the tape is out on Philly. Everybody's seen the tape. Week 6, you had your bye. Everybody got a extra break from you, so they've seen everything they need to see from you. What are you going to come out of the bye with? How creative are you going to be going into your second half of the season?
Yeah.
And TJ Watt is still freaking injured. I'm pissed off because he's my fantasy team.
Hey, did you lose last week?
No. I didn't play you last week. I lost by 1 point last week, but I beat you the week before. Don't give me that, okay?
All right, whatever.
I mean, how many dropped interceptions did the Steelers defense have last week? Like, I think that the score this was against the Dolphins, man. Like, I think the score doesn't necessarily reflect how good this team. They had a bunch of dropped interceptions. The Miami secondary is a lot better than people think. They're again, it's Kenny Pickett. Tape's out on Kenny Pickett, but I don't know. Maybe Troy, you can speak to it, but like, I think like there's a lot of ways that the Steelers team is underrated, and a lot of reasons why a lot of Eagles fans are going to overlook this team. But maybe you can kind of shine a light on some of the positives, especially on defense, and kind of why you think the Steelers can make a game of this.
Damn, I did lose to Troy the week before.
Excellent.
184 to 137, you bastard.
That was an excellent segue because that was exactly where I wanted to go. But I was actually going to start first at Duck Win over here in in the comments, because he says something that I honestly believe. This Tomlin was way overdue for a bad season. And I think that as a true Steeler fan, you watched the change in coordinators over the years
Mhm.
where uh, you had to know that it was going to be too much change and Ben's time was coming. Um, I think that the biggest problem, in my opinion, is Terrell Austin as the defensive coordinator. It's a little unfair to say. Someone's going to argue in the comments, and I respect that, right? This is his first year as a defensive coordinator. And I often find that the Steelers defense takes too long to adjust. Miami had already jumped on them before they found a way to stop the deep pass in the middle. And then once they were able to stop the deep pass in the middle, the offense couldn't, keep speed.
Right.
And we're in a game, like you already said, all the way until the end. And then that's where the rookie quarterback comes in. Someone said that earlier in the comments that Kenny Pickett needs a chance to catch up to NFL speed. So we'll leave the door open on Terrell Austin. We know that the talent on that defense is there because when Keith Butler had it last year, it was a top defense. They definitely were the number one pass defense team, which was basically from the pass rush, not because the DBs were so great, but Minka Fitzpatrick still patrols the center of the defense, right?
Mhm.
We don't have to spend a lot of time on what we know of that defense. The only thing we can say is they give up a lot of points. I actually just had it up and I closed it to make another point. Points allowed per game. The Steelers are giving up 23 points, 23.1 points a game, right? That's something they didn't have to deal with last year,
Right.
even with a broken Ben Roethlisberger. So then when we transfer over to the offense, which I think is going to be the make or break situation in this game, we know what the Eagles are bringing on defense. So you'd have to live under a rock to not understand that Jalen Hurts moving the ball in any increments just makes that defense even harder to deal with every single week, right? And the point that I'm going with is this: Kenny Pickett being a rookie quarterback. I don't think that people realize that Kenny Pickett was in college for 5 years. Okay.
Right.
He was very pedestrian until his
Finally.
which would have been his red shirt sophomore year, where he had 3,000 yards passing. Right, he followed that up with pretty much a stinker, but only played in 9 games, and he barely had 2,500 yards. And then all of a sudden, I know what happened. Pitt gets a new offensive coordinator, not necessarily the OC. I forgot what they call him, game plan coordinator. Sorry, on offense. The same thing that happened to Joe Burrow at LSU when Joe Brady came on, and then Kenny Pickett throws for 4,300 yards. Right,
and the Blitnikoff winner, right? And the
and had a Blitnikoff winner who transferred to USC after he left. So 2 things happened there. One, it took him 5 years to adapt to college football, and then he got the coach who knew how to make it happen. I don't think we're going to see what Kenny Pickett really can be. I honestly believe, and we have a patient organization in Pittsburgh. It's going to be year 4 where we'll be like, hey, it's going to look like Daniel Jones. That's a good way to say it, right? Where it's like today, I say to myself, like, when Daniel Jones got drafted, I thought it was a good draft pick, and then I watched it all like. And then all of a sudden, Saquon stays healthy, and you're like, "This is the kid we thought we were going to get."
Right.
I envision that being that way. So with that said, I don't believe that Kenny Pickett could put points on the board, especially because at the current moment, the Steelers are scoring on average 15 points a game. That is, I haven't done the comparison. That has to rank bottom third in the league. Automatically, right? For comparison, Jalen Hurts, the guy that everybody wanted to run out of town right after they ran Carson Wentz out of town, is now leading an offense that's scoring nearly 30 points a game. That's where the Steelers were 2 years before Roethlisberger retired, with Keith Butler as a defensive coordinator. These roles are completely reversed. As right now, I'm given to understand the Eagles are letting up 17 points a game or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
The good part is, the terrible part is the Steelers also can't run the ball. Now that's where the two teams will separate. So at the time that Brian just said, when the Steelers find a way to shrink the field on defense, which like I said, Terrell Austin is going to take like a whole quarter, if not more, to find a way to shrink the field. But once he does, the Eagles can then say, okay, fine, we're going to run the ball at you. And they will, to the tune so far on average, and I just looked this up, 156 yards a game. Guess how many yards the Steelers are running the ball for with the number 1 draft pick and probably the most highly touted running back of his year, Najee Harris? We're at 88 yards a game.
Yes.
So once we shrink the field, we can't throw it that well with a rookie quarterback. Mitch Trubisky can provide a spark, but I doubt it'll be enough against the defense we're facing. And then we can't control the clock.
Mhm.
So then how do you stop Jalen Hurts from scoring 30 points on you? You kind of don't. But I say, give me my 10 points because it's already been said, and I won't beat the dead horse. From somehow, some way, that's that old mantra where they say a team takes on its coach's personality.
Yeah.
This Steelers team is going to fight. They're going to fight like every Steelers team before. They're going to make it as hard as they possibly can for you to beat them, with the exception of Buffalo. You were right, but they're going to fight. I don't see how the Steelers win this game in any way, shape, or form, but I do believe my team will be within 10 points.
Mhm.
I do. I hope I
don't
didn't
disagree with that at all.
do that.
No, you're good. I really don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
That's all I got
Yeah.
for that part.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, one of the keys I think is we talk about how good this Eagles defense have been, but the numbers don't lie. And one of the areas, and this is after facing a Cowboys team that they always struggle with this, especially Zeke runs all over them. Is they're allowing about 5 yards a carry. Which is not great, and that's maybe kind of a bit of a spurious result because I think there's a lot that goes into the teams can't pass the ball, so they're gonna run. And they're going to run well. And then we have, as loaded as this defensive line is, it's a lot of pass rushers on that defensive line. So we do stuff the interior, but on the outside, we don't really have run stopping defensive ends. We have pass rush, right? And then the difference is too, when we were playing the Cowboys, like sure they're running the ball, but Cooper Rush is throwing, 2 picks every, or a pick every other throw, right? It doesn't matter, right? So this is a week where if the Steelers come in with a good game plan of running the football, they might actually be able to accomplish that. Now,
that offensive line's too bad, Morgan. They're too bad.
That's I'm trying to throw you a bone here, but yeah,
You throw it back.
but yeah, I think kind of inversely, this is a problem that Philly needs to solve, especially coming off a bye. Is you can't go into the playoffs, you can't go into November allowing 5 yards of carry. That's not the way to build a playoff team, and that's kind of where the conversation is with the Eagles now. Is we're not too worried. We know what schedules on the horizon. We don't have too many games where it's like these are going to be against playoff teams. We should be able to make the playoffs. We should be able to win the division really, but regardless, we should be able to make the playoffs. So now we're kind of talking about problems that need to get solved before the playoffs, and that's one is you can't allow 5 yards of carry and be a playoff team and expect to go win a Super Bowl, right? So that's a problem that needs to get solved. And this is a good litmus test. You have a team that should run the ball better. You can't let them get going. So this is the time where the defense needs to shut that. And the backers have been fantastic. It's just like little mistakes. They got to be more gaps down. They are kind of a younger group. We always talk about how TJ Edwards
just have to land tackles.
Yeah, exactly. Making tackles is huge, right? But again, it's a fairly young team outside of that defensive line, and that kind of stuff, just discipline, making tackles, stuff like that is like this is one of those games where that can't be an issue because, again, like the Steelers might not be able to put up the points on offense, but if you let them hang around, and you give them a chance, they'll keep fighting, and you don't want to be in a situation where you were like in Arizona where they're a yard away from losing that football game, right? So I think this is one of those games where it might not be about a win or loss, but it's about fixing the problems that we've seen over the last couple of weeks.
Well, hey, Duck, listen, the Steelers can't catch, so the Eagles won't have a lot to tackle. Deontay Johnson, I still do believe is in the top half of drops in the league, which is sad because he has, I'd say, one step lower than that explosion that Antonio Brown initially had. Like if you get him the ball in space, he can make the first 2 guys miss. But he can't catch the ball, so you don't got to worry about the Eagles not tackling if nobody catching the ball. Chase Claypool's running his mouth. The Eagles tried tackle earlier. How about you guys take Claypool from us and give us a line?
No, hell no, I don't want that.
We're good. We're good with AJ Brown. Thank you.
You keep that over there. I don't want. No, I'm good.
He's Canadian too, so that's a tough one for me. That hurts a bit.
Take down our team.
Do you see that clip? You see that clip of Romo talking about Claypool, where he doesn't run a quarterback friendly routes. He's saying that he's like there's an in route where he should have just he kind of bananaed it. He's like, I see Claypool not really making quarterback friendly plays. I thought that was interesting because, man, does he have the tangible skill like that? That dude, if he could get it together, is ridiculous.
He had a great rookie season, but he's kind of fallen off ever since.
He did not. That's a misnomer. I will argue that. So first of all,
he ate us alive.
I was elated for the draft pick, but it's exactly what Morgan said. It's these weird intangible skills, right? But no refined football. Morgan, no offense. I think that's part of growing up Canadian, right? And then coming here to play football in college, right? Those refined skills that you learn in 7th and 8th grade that get sharpened in high school that are already present in college. He had to learn in college. So those things, I completely understand why Romo said what he said. And I just wish Claypool would shut his mouth sometime, though. He's giving me that Kadarius Toney vibe where, and that guy finally got himself out of New York, which is good. But anyway,
I wonder if we get a conditional 3rd and a 5th for him, then I think you'd probably take that just like the Giants did.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I was staring at something that I don't know how your audience feels about it, but the matchup predictor gives my Steelers a 15.4% chance of winning.
I don't like
15.4. But I mean, there's certain things, like for instance, right? You guys should know why I'm so stuck on taking my points. In the last 2 games that the Steelers played, Buffalo being the 3rd, just so we know, the Steelers are 2-0 against the spread, right? They've managed to be within whatever their underdog number was. I believe it was 10 with Tampa and a touchdown with Miami. So they snuck under both times, but whatever, they did it. The thing that that I'm trying to point out here though is Philadelphia is 4-2 against the spread in their last 6. So I don't know why I'm insisting on taking my 10 points, but I am. Just some information out there for those of you who like to be knuckleheads like me and Al Michaels. You ever hear those little zingers he throws in about the line? Key injuries, though. I don't know that they are that important. You guys only have Brandon Graham and Jackson out, right? And then look at the Steelers list. We know Watt's out, right? Austin's out, who doesn't really do much. But then Ogunjobi on the defensive tackle, Josh Jackson and Levi Wallace remain out. Who the hell's stopping Devontae Smith?
Right.
We can't put Minka on them one-on-one all day. That's not going to work.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's like the only person that can stop this offense is the offensive coordinator, who I'm very much against as of late. Like Shane lacks creativity outside of the game script, which it shows. Like the first quarter, second quarter, they're on point. They're doing what they do. They're scoring. Second quarter comes and it's kind of like, damn guys, I forgot to study for this part of the test. Like that's literally what it feels like at times. And if that happens, it continuously happens over the next couple of weeks, like this team is going to be in trouble coming to the playoffs. Especially, to me, if we get number 1 seed, nobody's coming to Philly and beating Philly. I don't see that happening at all. But if we fall into, a wild card round, whatever the case may be, and you have to trust the offense to actually drive down and make plays in the second half, like what's going to happen? Like,
but why don't you think that if you're running the ball the way you're running the ball? I'm just a question. Why do you feel that way?
It's not the whole running the ball is not actually a consistent thing. This is not the same team from last year that was running the ball. This is a team that's first and running second. The running the ball notion has come when they had to put away games. Like Dallas, they put them away by was like seven minutes off the clock in like the 3rd or the 4th by running the ball, which was great. And usually, anybody could correct me if I'm wrong. If you're running the ball and you have a player like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, even a Quez Watkins and Dallas Goedert, that's going to open up the play action more than ever for you guys to move with Jalen Hurts. Like that's, to me, that's it's open season, but we don't see that. It's just it's either one play and they run it so well consistently, or they're stuck. Like the screen plays against Arizona, it was 13 screen passes. And it all felt like it was one after another. Against Dallas, it was run play after run play after run play after run play to put out the game. I have no I don't have any beef with how they're putting away games. I'm glad that they're winning the games. But my thing is like come playoff time, like you guys gotta be prepared. Like this isn't, you're gonna be facing the top teams in the NFC come playoff time.
Sorry to cut you off. This is a Philadelphia show, so I'm going to stick with Philadelphia. Two things I just want to address. One, first of all, I get that you're saying it's not consistent, but it's hard to believe you can't do it when you're currently sixth in the league at rushing yards a game. Secondly, you know what you're number one in? Turnover differential. You know what wins playoff games?
Yeah.
Turnovers, defense.
I understand that, but also
so why I don't understand your concern is what I'm saying.
my concern is them running into a brick wall. That's my only thing with this team. If you run into a brick wall, which they've done multiple times in the second half, and come playoff time, you're gonna get stuck point blank. And that's the last thing that needs to happen with this team.
Yeah. I think what Brian's like alluded to is something that we had talked about before, and actually going into the Cardinals game is that this just isn't a team that is built to play from behind, which isn't a problem. It hasn't been a problem yet, and no offense, but it probably won't be a problem against the Steelers. Is they'll come in and this is a thing we talked about with Chargers fans too about Steichen is the halftime adjustments aren't great. So we go in and I think almost every single game except for the Jags game, it's about 20-3 or something like that at halftime. Like that's probably the average score.
That was gonna be my next question. I was say, when were you trailing at half though? I don't think you have yet.
Yeah, we haven't been trailing at half at all. But this is what I'm saying is you look at the schedule we have, and we have the Titans who we thought might be better than they are, and they're not going to be. And then we have the Packers left, and then we have the Colts. Like there's no team on the schedule that's going to put up a bunch of points early, and it's been nice for our secondary, but we're looking at the safety duo, and granted, Marcus Epps and CJG have been better than we thought they are, but we don't have a true single high safety back there that can actually stop teams from going deep. The difference has been the pass rush, and we might not be fantastic in sacks, but we have a fantastic pressure rate, and we're causing quarterbacks to make mistakes just based on switching up the coverages, doing different things, and so the problem is when we go against a veteran quarterback, which again we haven't really faced. We didn't have to face Prescott. We faced Carson Wentz. We faced Trevor Lawrence. We're facing Kenny Pickett this week. Kyler Murray again. Like he's still young. He's never really been that guy that sits down and reads a defense really well. He's just going to out athlete you. So I think what Brian's trying to allude to is that if we get behind by a couple touchdowns and we haven't had the opportunity to practice catching up, like we might not be able to do that. And so I think like for better or worse, you almost want to, and Brian said this last week and he got a little bit of flack for it because he was saying he hopes the Eagles lose a game, but what you really want is to face some adversity where you're not winning at halftime because that's going to happen in the playoffs. You might not win at halftime. And so I think that the halftime adjustments, luckily you're coming in after a bye. I think it's pretty common for offensive coordinators to have like the first 25 plays scripted, and our first 25 plays look pretty damn good most games. But the halftime adjustments, man, you come out and it looks pretty stale. And that's just, again, I think we talked about it last week too, where Steichen's, we forget that he's a young coach just because our whole coaching staff is like under 40, which is ridiculous. So he's still figuring it out, but yeah, I think it's a legitimate concern.
Well, I mean, okay, I'm on the same page, and I think you hit the money when you started naming off the quarterbacks that
right.
Your defense was beat. So it is a little of an inflation to tout that you're the fourth, the fourth defense, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get it, but I still think that. What do they do in college if you look at it like that, right? Because they don't have a in college.
A lot of drinks, a lot of priorities.
Okay. But they kind of cake up the front of the schedule, right? There's a reason for that. It's not just to steal a cheap win. It's to kind of refine, sharpen, build the momentum and the confidence. So I think your schedule works for you only in that regard, though. Like, that applies in football. You can't let your players get a quicksand mentality, right? Where it seems like everything's just always going to go wrong. So having a gradual step into a challenge sends them into the challenge with a little more confidence. And I'm looking at the remainder of your schedule, and it's going to be pretty thick, but not as thick as I thought it would be at the beginning of the season. Like you said, you still got Green Bay, who's actually coming to you. The Titans are going to come to you. You will travel to this giant team that's doing God knows what. I don't know what rosary bead somebody's holding right now, but I need that rosary bead for a lottery ticket. The Giants are the worst, like 6-1 team I've ever seen in my life. Like what it is, I think, no, I've been saying that to be funny, obviously, but they're just executing when they absolutely have to. They're not necessarily playing good football.
Right.
It's like, hey, our backs are on the wall. Everybody settle down, take a deep breath. That's not a good football team. That's a disciplined football team.
100%.
Congratulations, Brian Dable. That is a huge thing to get at the professional level.
Yep.
You know, to have a well-disciplined football team. So then after that, you'll have the struggling Bears. You will see Dak and his Cowboys in Dallas. The Saints won't give you a challenge, and then you get to finish the season at home against the Giants. It's gonna wind down for you guys on like a weird roller coaster because you're gonna get the Titans at a time where they're gonna have to have already decided what team they're gonna be, right? So they're either gonna start coming back upward. The Packers, in my opinion, are finished. When the quarterback keeps taking shots at the coach in every press conference. Look, we know you're talented, Aaron Rodgers. We'll see you next year. But
take early vacations there.
Yeah, you know,
here's your bags.
I think that man is extremely talented. He may be, and let them hammer me in the comments if they want. He may be the third or fourth best quarterback I ever saw with my eyes. That's how I'll say it, right? With my own eyes. And the first one, you can argue with me all you want, is one Peyton Manning. Like I just never seen a quarterback do what he did. Tom executes well. Peyton controls an entire game. Tom's two, right? And then after that, I would probably put Rodgers about either him or Favre, right? But the guy's a jerk, man. Like, so I kind of like I kind of say like, here's your humble pie, have that, you know. So back to the Eagles. We're supposed to be talking about Philly or Pennsylvania because I'm here now today. In essence, I don't even remember. I think I did tell you guys last time I was on that I thought that Philly was going to win this division. I thought you were going to run away with it. That the Giants are the surprise. Washington is trying to pull a fast one. They're over Carson Wentz, and I have to eat crow on that because I think not the last time I was here, the time before that, I went on this long tirade about why you guys were wrong for what you did to Wentz. Apparently, you were right. You guys saw him falling off the rails. They got him out of town. You know, they packed him up, and it was true. He'll never be the same again. He's had 2 shots. But then I also think it might be something wrong in Indy because look at what's happening with Matt Ryan.
Right.
So I'm eating crow at the same time as I'm saying that I still believe that you guys have this division firmly in hand. I don't think the Giants are going to beat you twice. They might steal that December 11th game from you because you're in East Rutherford that day. And they are rolling. I don't think they have a real challenge before you either, in all honesty. So that's going to be where, you know, we're going to separate the men from the boys. And you're going to cruise into the playoffs. You could who's going to challenge you actually for number 1 overall seed? I can't even think of who in the NFC.
Isn't it like the Vikings number 2 right now?
Vikings are 2 right now. Yeah, Vikings are 2. Tampa's 3rd.
I could see the Vikings. I don't want to curse, but you know, messing the bed.
Yeah,
because that's what Kirk Cousins does. Like,
yeah.
So if we're only worried about Tampa, you shouldn't start worrying for another 5 weeks. They got to right that ship. I mean, I'm watching them now struggling with a Baltimore team that can't get out of their own way. You know, like that's the problem with Baltimore. They can't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And yet again, we've got 10 points on the board for Tom.
Do you know who the 3rd seed in the NFC is, or in the NFC is? Who you won't guess?
I won't guess. I probably won't.
Seahawks.
Gino, they're not going to beat you guys, though. I mean,
that's crazy. Seahawks are the number 3 seed in the NFC. That
thing's going to come off the road real fast on them.
Only because they're going to win the division. Like the Giants are Giants are 6-1, so they got the second best record. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, I don't see how you guys finish 1 or 2.
Time to separate the men from the boys, like Detroit said. Let's talk predictions. Let's talk about Sunday, guys. Let's talk about
text message.
As somebody gets a text. Who has a text message announcement for a ringtone? Is it you, Coach? Bro,
it's a slow hand for me.
What happens is I'm not a fan of looking at my phone. Like I'm open, like right now I'm doing something. So everything is like a voice, alert, so I know what it is and if I need to actually pay attention.
Does
to
it feel
myself.
like you have like an actual like personal assistant that's like a 30-year-old woman? Is that what you feel right
No,
now?
what it feels more like? It feels more like I've become that 62-year-old dad who I'm okay with technology, but I need it to be simple. So I need to know exactly why it's doing what it's doing. That's what it feels like. All right, so predict the score of this game. Do I have to? I have to go first because I'm the
You don't
guest.
have to go first. You don't have to go
No,
first.
yeah.
That's all right. I don't
I was
mind.
just trying
I'll go
to.
first. I don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's going to be the same narrative that we've seen from the Eagles team. They're going to come out hot. They're going to put up points. I could see them putting up, probably like 24 in the first half, and yeah, they're going to be that good. In the second half, they're going to fall asleep. They're going to run the ball. So I could see this game being like 27-17. That's kind of the game, and I guess in that scenario they don't necessarily cover the spread, so it might be one of those odd scores where it's like 27-20, something like that. I know it seems like a lot of points, but I just think that that's the way it's going to go. Is Troy talked about it, like the Steelers defense takes a while to kind of settle in. Eagles are coming off a bye. They're gonna have a great game plan. They're gonna be watching tape. They do have a short week, right? They play Thursday against the Texans after that. So I think that the whole point of that when you have a short week is you got to come out fast your first week, and just hopefully you put the game away early so you can run the clock in the second half. So that's my prediction. But I can see the Steelers, again, just coming back in the second half, and we got to sit there kind of fucking with our toes curled, watching a team that shouldn't put up as many points as they do, walk down the field. And so I think my final score is probably about 27-17, 27-20. But most of that damage is going to be done in the first half for the Eagles.
Let me tell you why I really love doing this show, Morgan. I honestly think that you guys are reasonable gentlemen in the way that you view football, not just fanboys talking about their team, because you are literally 1 point off of my guess.
All right.
So I had a two-part guess. Like the one I feel strongest about is 26-17 in favor of Eagles. Like that was honestly what I was going with. And then I was like, I won't necessarily rule out 22-20 Steelers, like on that last field goal, because they found a way to fight. If I was gonna bet this game, though, my official guess would be Eagles 26, Steelers 17. That's cool.
That's a good guess.
I think you guys are both coming in a little bit higher than what I'm expecting.
All right.
I am expecting it to be close, like I said. The Eagles this year, they've loved like Morgan said, that second quarter, right? That's been the dominant quarter, and they've done Ugats in the rest of the game, right? So for me, I think that they are going to get it going in the second quarter, but the final score, I'm thinking, I don't know that they even reached their favorite 24. I think that we're going 21, right? Because I think they're going to be running the ball a lot at the end. Steelers 13. So I got 21-13.
Don't be wrong, Brian. Don't be wrong.
I'm trying not to be. I'm trying not to be. I got a lot of flex.
Brian, I'm writing yours down. That way we know.
So here's what I'm going with. I think this team comes out flat to start the game. This is gonna be a different team that we see. Not in such a bad way. I think it's gonna be a very low scoring game in the first half. Like we're talking probably like 7-3, 3-10, something in the ballpark. But I think this Eagles team actually puts together in the second half and actually show us that they're capable of coming out of a slump and adjusting in the second half. I'm in the same ballpark as Zach. I don't think it's gonna be a high scoring game. I would go probably like 20-10 or 20-13.
Okay.
All right. So Zach and Brian are under the 43, and Morgan and I are a little over it.
I'll go one further. I think Miles Sanders is going to break a big one in this game. That's my.
I think Darius Slay has 7 interceptions.
Okay, that's down. All right, down.
I actually
James
had it
Bradley
even
has 3.
lower at first.
I'm not inclined to say he's wrong, considering he throwing 3 interceptions in a matter of 2 quarters. Like you notice he does it in bunches too, right?
We could be looking at another multi-pick game for Slay. Like that is a possibility.
Yeah, that's his thing this year.
He's big play Slay for a reason.
Desert Fox. How many interceptions does Pickett throw? Give me the over 1.5. I'll take the over on a 1.5 with that.
Yeah, I go with that.
I would.
I feel like the post game headline should be like big play Pickett.
You're good,
Because Slay has
man.
2 or 3 picks. Like,
Mhm.
You're good. We love you. Listen, you got us this year. You know, in previous, my previous appearance before this game, you know, I had a lot more to be optimistic about. I'm not gonna sit here and just be a fanboy.
Mhm.
I think I know the problems with my team, but you can't say that they have yet to come out and not actually fight except Buffalo. And I think they were fighting. I think Buffalo's just that damn good.
Yeah.
I don't think KC could beat Buffalo because I honestly think that playoff game, that championship game this year is going to be in Buffalo.
Mhm.
I'm ready to place the bet now on Buffalo in the Super Bowl, but I can't figure out who. And this is why I like you guys because at least you're honest about it. My favorite is still Philadelphia to take the NFC. And I'm not saying that to jinx you guys.
Mhm.
I like that roster from top to
Yeah.
bottom. And then you just had the nerve to go and add Quinn, which made me sick to my stomach because what are my Steelers doing? We just don't make in season moves like that.
Yeah.
It's the gift
Yeah.
of the curse. We develop talent very well, so you figure they don't feel the need to. But when these guys are available, when teams are making it known that we're listening to a guy who makes a difference, and your team's just at home, like, yeah, so let's go over here and work on the guys downstairs. You know, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
But
Not to mention that Howie's not done, but go on.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Say again?
I said not to mention that Howie's not done either, but yeah, go
Yeah.
on.
yeah, apparently
Yeah,
they're on the brink of acquiring Alvin Kamara. According to
I
Twitter.
don't know where to go with that. This is crazy. But I will say this because I have to be a Pittsburgh guy, and we're all Pennsylvania love, but I have to be the Pittsburgh guy, right? Last time you built the super team, what happened?
We didn't start 6-0.
Yeah, remember that Vince Young and everybody
Listen,
else
that was Vince Young. That
dream
was his
team?
problem. That was his bad juju. Vince Young doesn't exist in his role anymore. This team is, it's all about progress. That's what I respect about Jalen. It's all about progress.
Okay, all right, no problem. We're watching
I,
another
I,
trailer.
I I will say I do think the Bills are a better team. I know everyone has the Eagles at the top because they're 6-0, but I think the Bills.
I think, because the Bills can get it done from the air to the ground.
They've made more impressive feats, even though they are not undefeated. And on top of that, they're more proven.
They got the best defense in the league.
They got the best defense in the league. You can't deny that they do have an upgraded quarterback. They do have a ton of offensive weapons. And now Jalen Hurts, I think, is a better leader than Josh Allen, just because I don't know how many better leaders there are than Jalen Hurts in the NFL, if I'm being honest with you.
True.
But just from an arm talent standpoint, you have to give it to Josh Allen. But even still, they have their weapons. Gabe Davis is a great deep weapon, kind of like Kes Watkins on steroids, not literally. And then you're talking about Stephon Diggs, who's another impressive guy too. And, I think Buffalo is going to be looking to add a piece by the deadline too. So we might not be looking at the best Buffalo team as of this moment. So I agree, Morgan. I think they're number one. I think Philadelphia is number two, but crazier things have happened. It's not always the best team on paper that wins.
But
That
until
is true.
then,
I'm
it's
not
the best team
willing-
on paper right now. Okay, it's just the best team on paper. So
I'm not willing to dismiss the Rams yet either. I think they're still like the problem over there is I think that their offensive line is better than it's playing. And if you guys, and I've spoken to you guys, you are real football people, so you understand that it takes a couple actual games for offensive line to gel, for them to understand where the rest of them are moving without having to see them. Losing Big Wit and I forgot the guard on the right on the opposite side, that was pretty heavy. And that's the same thing that's wrong with my Steelers. This is why I can't. I want the 10 points. I honestly think my Steelers will be within. They've rebuilt this line 3 consecutive years, and it still sucks.
Yeah.
But they got rid of your boy Villanueva.
I know. Remember how much I hated that guy? So if you guys recall correctly, go back and watch what he did when he was a Raven and tell me I wasn't right. Like, I tell the truth about my team, bro. Like, the guy was trash. The Steelers fans loved him because he came out and he saluted the flag when the rest of the team stayed in the tunnel. Good for him. I'm not knocking him for it. That doesn't make you a better football player. I said that, and I'll say it again now. So it's going to be an interesting season for the Eagles. And I will never wear green, but I will gladly come back on and talk green with you whenever you want because, it's all Pennsylvania sports, baby.
Yeah.
I respect it. We appreciate you coming on. But yeah, I mean that wraps up another week of Flipping the Birds. We have our picks in, and I want to know why Zach wrote mine down, but if I'm right, you owe me a pork.
You were wrong.
And I'm going to transfer that pork to another gentleman.
You're hosting the show, man. You got the most pressure on your shoulders. The rest of us, we walk home at the end of the day if we're wrong. But
yeah, I was.
you know,
Why
plus
do
you
you
got to
shave my
come back
head?
from all the. You got to come back from all the Giants talk from last week. You know, so you got to
Listen.
yourself.
Okay, we got 5 minutes. I think my wife's in the bathroom. We got 5 minutes. Okay, listen to me. Listen to me clear. I'm going to turn up the microphone a little bit too. Here's how I see it. All I said last week is the Giants defense actually looks like, an actually a legit defense. They're a bit scrappy. I mean, they're a very feisty bunch. I think their defense is pretty good. I believe in their offense, but they're a good team right now. How they're winning, I don't know how the hell. Against the Ravens, we know Lamar threw that game. Okay, we know he threw that game. But they're winning right now. And they look like they could be a team that could give the Eagles trouble. And Troy actually said it right earlier that he thinks that we go to what's it called? American Dream now or MetLife? We go to MetLife and we lose. Listen.
Troy
if it's
doesn't
gonna
host an
happen,
Eagles podcast, but sure, that's
Brian. You might be making some good points, but it's kind of like going to a church and be like, "Yo, Satan's got some good points, man." Like you just can't. You can't say that. You can't say it. This is the Eagles podcast. You just can't do it. I mean, you're not wrong.
We're done tonight. We're done. Got to Satan in here.
You can't do that, man.
Oh, but
God.
I can get away with that, right?
Yeah, you can't.
Duck, I'm sorry, man. I just speak my truth, Duck. Sorry. He respected me until my last comment. Sorry, Duck.
But
I
yeah,
hope you guys tune in, keep tuning in, and I hope I'll be back soon, and we'll argue about that a little more, Duck.
we'll be. I mean, it's a tricky week next week, but we'll be back next week at some point. Either Tuesday or Wednesday has to be. Because Thursday. Yeah. Until next week, guys. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Morgan Burkett and Zach Chavalella and Troy Briggs. We'll see you guys next.
Go Birds.
Birds.
Yes, sir.